You can change what already happened. I know how that sounds. I know the objection rising in your mind right now. The past is past. What's done is done. We accept it. We learn from it. We move forward. But change it? No, that's impossible. And yet I tell you with absolute certainty that you can change what already happened. Not metaphorically, not by reframing your attitude toward it, or finding the silver lining, or telling yourself a more empowering story about it. I mean, you can actually change the event itself. You can go back in imagination and rewrite the memory, and in doing so, you change the present moment, you change the conditions of your life today, and you set a new trajectory for your future. This is not fantasy. This is not magical thinking. This is the most practical, the most liberating, and perhaps the most radical thing Neville Goddard ever taught. He called it revision, and if you truly understand what it is and why it works, you will never again feel trapped by your history. You will never again say, if only I had done this differently, if only that hadn't happened to me, if only I could go back. Because you can go back. You do go back. And when you do, you return to a different present. Now, before we go any further, let me say this. If the idea feels too strange, too impossible, that's natural. You've been taught your entire life that time flows in one direction. You've been taught that the past is fixed, immutable, carved in stone. You've been taught that memory is a record of what happened, not a seed of what is happening. But Neville didn't teach from what the world believes. He taught from what he proved, and he proved again and again that imagination creates reality, not in the future, but now. And if imagination creates reality now, then the past you remember is not a fact outside of you. It is an image within you, and any image within you can be changed. So let's begin. Let's explore what revision truly is, why the past is not fixed, and how you can use this technique to change what already happened. And in doing so, change everything. Welcome. If this is your first time here, you arrived at the right moment. This channel is dedicated to the teachings of Neville Goddard, one of the most profound mystics and teachers of the 20th century. We don't dilute his message. We don't mix it with other philosophies. We go deep into what Neville actually taught, and we show you how to live it. Today we're exploring revision. By the end of this episode, you'll understand not only how to do it, but why it may be the most important technique Neville ever gave us. You'll understand that your past is not a chain around your neck. It is clay in your hands. And you are the potter. Let's begin with the first question. What is revision? Revision is the act of replaying a past event in your imagination. But this time, you replay it as you wish it had happened. You don't analyze it. You don't process it. You don't try to understand why it happened or what lesson it carried. You simply go back in your mind's eye and experience it differently. You imagine the conversation going the way you wanted it to go. You imagine the outcome you wish you had received. You imagine yourself feeling the way you wish you had felt. You do this with as much sensory vividness as possible, and then you let it go. You accept the revision as the truth. That's it. That's the technique. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like daydreaming. That sounds like daydreaming. That sounds like daydreaming. That sounds like lying to yourself about what really happened. But you're missing the point. The question is not what really happened. The question is, what is real? Neville taught that consciousness is the only reality, not the external world, that the events that seem to unfold in time and space. Consciousness, your awareness, your I am, and everything you experience, everything you call real, is a projection of consciousness. The world is yourself pushed out. That includes your past. The past is not something that happened to you. The past is something you are imagining now. Right now, in this present moment, you are holding an image of yesterday, last month, last year, and you are calling that image memory. But it is still an image. It is still imagination. And here's the key. If you change the image, you change the reality it projects. Let me say that again. If you change the image, in consciousness, you change the reality it projects. Let me say that again. If you change the image in consciousness, you change the reality that image produces. Not someday. Now, because consciousness is all, time, as Neville said, is nothing more than a series of mental states. The past is a mental state you are entertaining. The future is a mental state you are entertaining. And the present is simply the outpicturing of whichever mental state you are most identified with. So when you revise a memory, you are not pretending. You are not denying what happened. You are shifting to a parallel state of consciousness in which that event unfolded differently. And because you have shifted states, the present moment must reorganize itself to reflect that shift. The outer world conforms to the inner image, always, without exception. Neville gave a very simple example of this in one of his lectures. He spoke about a woman who had a falling out with her daughter. The conversation had been harsh. Words were said that couldn't be unsaid. The woman was filled with regret. She came to Neville and asked what she could do. He told her, revise it. Go back in imagination, replay the conversation, but this time hear your daughter's voice soft and kind. Hear yourself responding with love. Feel the warmth between you. See her smiling. Feel the reconciliation as real. The woman did this. She revised the memory that very night in the state akin to sleep. And within days, her daughter reached out. The relationship healed, not because the woman begged or apologized or explained, but because she changed the image in consciousness. And when the image changed, the reflection changed. Now, some of you are already asking, but did the conversation really change? Did it unhappen and then rehappen differently? And I tell you, you're still thinking from the wrong framework. You're still thinking that there's an objective past out there, independent of your consciousness. There isn't. There never was. The only past that exists is the one you are aware of. And the moment you become aware of a different past, that is the past that is real. That is the past that has power. That is the past that determines your present. Neville put it this way. He said, you are not revising a fact, you are revising an impression. And the impression you hold is the only fact there is. Let that sink in. The event you regret, the conversation you wish you could take back, the mistake you think defines. You are not stone monuments in a timeline behind you. They are impressions in your mind. And an impression can be re-impressed. A memory can be remembered, put back together in a new way. And when you do that, you are not changing the past in some distant dimension. You are changing the causative state that is producing your present experience. This is why Neville insisted that revision is not about the past. It's about now. It's about freeing yourself from the mental state that is still creating unwanted conditions. Because if you carry a memory of failure, you carry the state of failure. If you carry a memory of rejection, you carry the state of being rejected. And as long as you carry that state, your world will continue to reflect it. You'll meet rejection again and again in new faces, new circumstances, but always the same pattern. Because the pattern is not out there, it's in here. It's in the image you're holding. So you revise the image, you re-impress consciousness with a new image, and now from this new state, a new present unfolds. You walk into the same situations, but you are no longer the person who was rejected. You are the person who was embraced. And the world, which is yourself pushed out, must reflect that. Neville once said, dare to assume that the thing you want is already true. And though reason and the senses deny it, persist in that assumption, and it will harden into fact. Revision is the same principle, applied backward. Dare to assume that the thing you regret never happened the way you remember. Assume a new memory, persist in it, and it will harden into present fact. I know this sounds radical. I know it overturns everything you've been taught about cause and effect, about time, about reality itself. But Neville didn't teach comfort. He taught truth. And the truth is, you are not a creature of time. You are the creator of time. You are the authrators. You are the author of the past. You are the author. And if you don't like the story you've written, you can revise it. Try it. Don't debate it. Don't ask for proof. Try it. Tonight, before you sleep, take one small regret, one moment you wish had gone differently. Go back to it in your mind. See it. Feel it. And then gently replay it the way you wish it had been. Don't force it. Just imagine. Imagine the words you wish you'd said. Imagine the feeling of rightness, of it turning out well. Fall asleep in that feeling. And then watch. Watch how the present begins to shift. Watch how the people involved begin to act differently toward you. Watch how opportunities appear that were formerly blocked. Watch how your own emotional response to that area of your life begins to change. Not because you process the trauma, but because you erase the impression. This is not therapy. This is not healing in the conventional sense. This is creation. This is the deliberate use of imagination to rewrite the script of your life. And it works because imagination is not a faculty you use to escape reality. Imagination is the faculty by which you create reality. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about why the past is not fixed. This is Neville's most radical claim, and it's the one that most people stumble over. So let me be very clear. The past is not fixed because the past does not exist outside of consciousness. There is no vault somewhere in the universe where past events are stored. There is no cosmic record that you're violating by imagining differently. The past exists only as a present thought. You are thinking it now. You are remembering it now. And the act of remembering it now. And the act of remembering is an act of imagining. Every time you recall a memory, you are not retrieving a file. You are reconstructing an experience. Neuroscience will tell you this. Memory is not playback, it's reconstruction. Every time you remember, you rebuild the memory. And in the process, you slightly alter it. You add details. You remove details. You color it with your current mood, your current beliefs, your current state of consciousness. The past you remember today is not the same past you remembered 5 years ago. It has changed because you have changed. Now, most people do this unconsciously. They remember the same painful events over and over, and with each remembering, they deepen the groove. They reinforce the state. They make the impression stronger. And so the past continues to create the present, and the present continues to feel like the inevitable result of the past. But Neville said, you don't have to do this. You can remember consciously. You can reconstruct deliberately. You can choose what impression to reinforce. And if you choose to revise, if you choose to remember it differently, you are not lying. You are not in denial. You are exercising your true power as a creator. You are choosing which state to occupy. And the state you occupy is the only reality there is. Neville often quoted scripture to illustrate this. He loved the verse from Isaiah, "Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing." He said this was not a call to forget the past. It was a call to stop holding the old image in consciousness. Stop remembering the former things. Stop considering the things of old. Not because they didn't happen, but because holding them in mind keeps them happening. Behold, I will do a new thing. The new thing is done by imagining newly, by revising the old image into a new image. And when you do that, the new thing appears. Not in the future, now. Let me give you another example, one Neville himself used. He spoke of a man who had been in a terrible argument with his business partner. The partnership dissolved. There was bitterness, legal threats, loss of income, the man felt victimized. He felt wronged. And every time he thought about his former partner, he felt that same anger, that same resentment. And his business continued to struggle. New partners fell through. Deals collapsed. It was as if the original betrayal kept repeating itself in new forms. Neville told him, revise the argument. Go back to that day in your imagination. And instead of the anger and accusations, imagine the two of you sitting down calmly. Imagine a respectful conversation. Imagine parting as friends, wishing each other well. Imagine shaking hands. The man resisted at first. He said, but that's not what happened. Neville said, I know, but what you're remembering is still happening. It's still producing your present. So change the memory, and you change the production. The man did it. He revised the scene every night for a week. And then something extraordinary happened. His former partner reached out, not with hostility, but with an offer, a referral, a business opportunity that benefited them both. It wasn't a reconciliation in the way the man expected, but the bitterness dissolved. The pattern broke, and his business began to thrive again. Now, did the original argument unhappen? From the perspective of linear time, no. But from the perspective of linear time, no. But from the perspective of consciousness, yes. Because the man was no longer living from the state of betrayal. He was living from the state of mutual respect and goodwill. And that state produced a different present. The outer world rearranged itself to match the inner image. The bridge of incidents formed, as Neville would say, to bring about the confirmation of the revised state. This is the power of revision. It doesn't just make you feel better about the past. It changes the causal state that was generating your present experience. And when that state changes, everything changes. Neville said, "The world you see is a projection of the state you occupy. If you occupy a state of resentment, you see a world of resentment. If you occupy a state of forgiveness, you see a world of forgiveness." But here's what most people miss. The state you occupy is determined by the images you hold in consciousness. And those images include your memories. So if you're holding a memory of betrayal, you're occupying the state of betrayal. And as long as you're in that state, you will continue to meet betrayal in 1,000 different forms. But the moment you revise the memory, you exit that state. You enter a new state, and from that new state, you see a new world. Not because the world changed independently of you, but because you changed. And the world is you. This is why Neville called revision one of the most important techniques he ever taught, because it addresses the root. Most people try to change their future by affirming, visualizing, setting intentions, and that's fine. But if they're still carrying old impressions, old memories, old states, those old images will keep creating the same old patterns. The future will look like the past because the past is still alive in consciousness. Revision kills the past, not by denying it, but by replacing it. You give consciousness a new image to work with, and consciousness, being the only reality, accepts that new image as true, and from that acceptance, a new present emerges. Neville also taught that revision is an act of forgiveness, true forgiveness, not the kind where you grit your teeth and say, "I forgive you," while still holding the wound, but the kind where you literally reimagine the event so that there is nothing to forgive. You imagine it having happened beautifully. You imagine it having happened beautifully. You imagine it having happened beautifully. You imagine the person acting kindly. You imagine yourself responding with grace. And in that imaginal act, you release both them. You free them from the role of villain in your story, and you free yourself from the role of victim. This is what it means to forgive 70 times 7. It doesn't mean to let someone hurt you over and over. It means to revise the memory over and over. It means to revise the memory over and over until the impression of hurt is completely replaced by the impression of love. Neville once said, "To forgive is to give forth a new image, not to condone, not to forget, but to reimagine. And when you do, you discover that the person you were forgiving was never out there. They were an image in your mind, and you just changed the image. So let me ask you now, what are you still remembering? What event, what conversation, what failure, what hurt are you replaying in your mind again and again? What are you keeping alive by remembering it the way you do? I'm not asking you to justify it. I'm not asking whether it was real or whether you had a right to be hurt. I'm asking, do you want to keep creating from that state? Do you want the present moment to continue reflecting that image, or do you want something new? If you want something new, you must give consciousness something new to work with, and that means revision. Now let's talk about how to do it. Let's make this practical. Let's give you a clear, step-by-step process that you can use tonight. First, choose the event. Don't choose something massive to start with. Don't try to revise your entire childhood in one session. Start small. Pick one conversation, one incident, one moment that still bothers you when you think about it. It could be something recent or something from years ago. It doesn't matter. If it still has a charge, if it still makes you feel uncomfortable or sad or angry, it's still active in consciousness. It's still creating. So it's a good candidate for revision. Second, get into a relaxed state. Neville called this the state akin to sleep. You don't have to be fully asleep, but you want to be drowsy, comfortable, your body still. This is the state in which your conscious, reasoning mind steps back and your imagination becomes most powerful. The best time to do this is at night, just before you fall asleep. Lie down, close your eyes, and let your body relax completely. Take a few slow breaths. Feel yourself sinking into the bed. Let the day dissolve. Third, recall the event as it happened. Just briefly. Don't wallow in it. Just bring it to mind. See the scene, hear the words, feel the feeling. You're not doing this to relive the pain. You're doing this to locate the impression you're about to change. It's like finding the sentence in a document that you want to rewrite. You have to see it first. Fourth, now revise it. Replay the scene in your imagination, but this time it unfolds the way you wish it had. If it was a harsh conversation, imagine it being kind. If someone rejected you, imagine them accepting you. If you made a mistake, imagine yourself handling it perfectly. If you felt humiliated, imagine yourself feeling confident and respected. Don't just think about it, experience it. See the faces, hear the voices, feel the emotions, make it sensory, make it real. And here's the important part. Don't imagine yourself observing the scene. Imagine yourself in the scene. See it from your own eyes. Feel it in your own body. This is called first-person perspective, and it's crucial. You're not watching a movie of a better past. You're living a better past, right now in imagination. Fifth, let it feel natural. Don't force it. Don't strain. If it feels artificial at first, that's fine. Just keep gently replaying it until it starts to feel real, until you can almost forget which version actually happened. That's the sweet spot. That's when the impression has changed. Sixth, accept it. Once you've revised the scene, let it go. Don't question it. Don't check to see if it worked. Don't go back to the old memory to compare. Just accept that you have given consciousness a new image, and consciousness will do the rest. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. In this case, the wish fulfilled is the revised past. Fall asleep feeling the way you would feel if that event had truly gone the way you just imagined. That's it. That's the technique. Simple but profound. Now let me address some common questions. What if the event involves someone else's actions? Can you really change what they did? And the answer is yes, because what they did only exists as an image in your consciousness. The person you remember is not the person out there. The person you remember is not the person out there. The person you remember is a part of your own consciousness. Neville said, "There is no one to change but self." When you revise the memory, you're not reaching back in time and forcing them to act differently. You're changing the image of them in your mind. And when that image changes, your experience of them changes. And often, mysteriously, their behavior toward you changes as well, because they are yourself pushed out. What if you can't remember the event clearly? That's fine. You don't need photographic accuracy. You just need to capture the feeling of the event and the feeling of the revision. If you only remember the emotional tone, that's enough. Revise the tone. If it felt cold, imagine it warm. If it felt dismissive, imagine it welcoming. Consciousness works with feeling more than with details. What if the event was traumatic? Should you still revise it? Neville would say yes. In fact, revision can be especially powerful for trauma, because trauma is a memory that has frozen into a state. It's an image that has become so dominant that it colors your entire experience of life. By revising it, you're not minimizing what happened. You're reclaiming your power. You're refusing to let that image continue to create your present. And many people have found that revising a traumatic memory brings a sense of peace and freedom that years of conventional therapy could not provide. But be gentle with yourself. If it feels too overwhelming, start with smaller revisions and work your way up. What if you've already forgiven the person or moved on? Should you still revise? Yes, because forgiveness in the usual sense often means I've decided not to hold this against you anymore, but the memory is still there, unchanged. The image is still there, and as long as the image is there, it's still exerting influence. Revision completes the forgiveness. It removes the image entirely, or rather, it replaces it with an image of love. And here's something beautiful. You can revise anything, not just painful events. You can revise missed opportunities. You can revise conversations where you wish you'd said something different. You can revise moments of embarrassment, moments of fear, moments where you didn't show up as your best self. You can even revise your own self-concept by revising the events that shaped it. For example, maybe you remember a time in childhood when you were told you weren't good enough. Maybe a teacher criticized you, or a parent compared you to someone else, and that moment planted a seed of inadequacy that has grown into a lifelong belief. You can go back to that moment and revise it. Imagine the teacher praising you. Imagine your parent affirming you. Imagine yourself feeling seen. Valued your parent affirming you. Imagine yourself feeling seen, valued, celebrated. And as you revise that memory, the belief it created begins to dissolve, because the belief was never based on an objective truth. It was based on an impression. And you just change the impression. Neville himself did this. He spoke about revising his own past, even going back to childhood memories and reshaping them. He said it was one of the ways he maintained his unshakable confidence in the power of imagination, because he knew that nothing was fixed, nothing was final. Everything could be reimagined, and whatever he imagined, with feeling, became his reality. So I encourage you, make revision a regular practice. Not just when something goes wrong, but as a daily discipline. At the end of each day, before you sleep, review the day. If there was a moment that didn't go as you wished, revise it. Don't carry it into tomorrow. Don't let it seed a state you don't want to occupy. Revise it now while it's fresh, and you'll be amazed at how quickly your life begins to smooth out. How conflicts resolve themselves. How mistakes seem to undo themselves. How conflicts resolve themselves. How mistakes seem to undo themselves. How the people around you become kinder, more cooperative, more loving. Because you're not changing them. You're changing the image you hold of them. And they must conform to that image. The world is yourself pushed out. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Let's talk about why this matters beyond any single memory or regret. Let's talk about why this matters beyond any single memory or regret. Let's talk about what revision reveals about who you really are. Revision is proof that you are not a victim of time. You are not a product of your part. You are not the sum of what has happened to you. You are consciousness. You are imagination. You are the I am. And the I am is not in time. The I am creates time. Every moment you are imagining. And whatever you imagine, you experience. Most people imagine unconsciously. They replay the past. They project it into the future. And they call that reality. But you don't have to do that. You can imagine deliberately. You can choose the images you hold in consciousness. And when you do, you step out of the river of time and become its source. Neville said, you are not a man seeking God. You are God, imagining yourself to be a man. And God does not plead with the past. God creates. God imagines, and whatever God imagines is. You are that God. You are the operant power. And revision is one of the ways you exercise that power. It's how you prove to yourself that nothing is outside of you, nothing is beyond your control, nothing is fixed. Everything is alive in consciousness. Everything is malleable. Everything is waiting for you to imagine it anew. This is freedom, true freedom, not the freedom to escape your circumstances, but the freedom to create your circumstances, moment by moment, through the images you accept as true. And here's what's truly wonderful. The more you practice revision, the less you need it, because you start to live differently. You start to move through your days knowing that if something goes wrong, you can revise it. So you stop reacting with fear or regret. You stop clinging to outcomes. You become lighter, more playful, more confident, because you know that nothing is permanent except the I am. And the I am can always imagine anew. You also begin to notice that fewer and fewer things need revising, because as you change the images in consciousness, as you dissolve the old impressions and states, your present experience becomes smoother. You stop attracting conflict. You stop creating drama. You move through life from a higher state, a state of love and abundance and peace, and the world reflects that back to you. This is what Neville called living in the end. Not just imagining your wish fulfilled in the future, but living now as the person who is already free, already whole, already the author of your own story. And revision is one of the most powerful tools for getting you there, because every time you revise, you declare, I am not subject to the past. I am not defined by what happened. I am consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. And I choose what is real. That is a declaration of Godhood. That is you remembering who you are. So let me bring this to a close with one final thought and one practice for you to carry into tonight. The thought is this: you can change what already happened, not because you're denying reality, but because you're creating reality. The past you remember is the past you are creating, right now by holding it in consciousness. And the moment you change what you hold, you change what is. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is how consciousness works. And Neville proved it in his own life and in the lives of thousands of students who applied his teachings. You can prove it too, but only by doing it, only by daring to revise, only by trying it and seeing what happens. So here's the practice. Tonight, as you lie down to sleep, choose one thing from today, or from this week, or from any point in your past, that you wish had been different. It can be small. It can be large. It doesn't matter. Just choose one thing. Close your eyes, relax your body, and replay that event in your imagination. But this time it goes beautifully. It goes exactly as you wish it had gone. See it, feel it, hear it, make it real, and then in that feeling of relief, of rightness, of it being done, let yourself drift into sleep. Don't question it. Don't test it. Don't check tomorrow to see if it worked. Just do it. Give consciousness the new image, and trust that the new image will harden into fact. Because it will. It must. Consciousness is the only reality, and you are consciousness. You are not trapped by your past. You are the author of your past, and you can rewrite the story anytime you choose. So choose now. Choose tonight. Revise one thing, and then watch how your world begins to change, not because you're manipulating circumstances, but because you're manipulating circumstances, but because you're changing states. And the state you occupy is the world you see. This is the promise of revision. This is the gift Neville gave us. You can change what already happened, and in doing so, you change your present, you change your future, you change everything. So go ahead, dare to assume it, dare to imagine it, dare to revise, and discover at last that you are free. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for having the courage to question what you've been taught and to step into your true power as a creator. Sleep well tonight, and wake tomorrow to a new world,